flack both publicly and behind the scenes here, certainly over the role of those pro-Russian separatists in the downing of flight MH17 over eastern Ukraine, and also the role of the Russian forces in destabilising eastern Ukraine generally. So it really, I suppose, from his perspective, would not have been a really, really happy summit.
Well, tell us about the Canadian leader's words to Vladimir Putin, because Canada has been home for some time to many Ukrainian expatriates. He feels the issue there quite keenly about what is going on in Ukraine, and he didn't really mince his words, did he?
Yes, this was a celebrated encounter at the reception for world leaders here in Brisbane last night. As the Canadians tell us, Vladimir Putin strode over to Stephen Harper, hand outstretched. And Stephen Harper said that, yes, well, Vladimir Putin, I guess I'll have to shake your hand, but in very direct words said, Russia has to get out of Ukraine, to which Vladimir Putin, according to the Canadians, told Stephen Harper, well, we would if Russia was in Ukraine, and that goes against what everybody else is saying around the world, that Russia is directly arming, financing, supplying these pro-Russian separatists. In fact, as we speak, Jeremy, I've just been given a few sentences from what was a media conference that Vladimir Putin gave to journalists just before leaving. We're told the Russian president praised what he called the constructive atmosphere at the G20 summit in Brisbane, despite the pressure put on him over the activities in Ukraine. He said that some of our views did not coincide, but the discussions were complete, constructive and very helpful. That's the take by the Russian president. So we're also told Vladimir Putin also thanked Australia's Prime Minister Tony Abbott for hosting the event, and that is despite, of course, Tony Abbott being one of those world leaders determined to express his anger to the Russian president. And I finish by saying Vladimir Putin told those journalists that the economic blockade of Ukraine's separatist east by Kiev is, in his words, a big mistake, because it cuts off the disputed regions from the rest of the country. So some news just beginning to emerge from what was a fairly brief media conference Vladimir Putin gave to journalists as we see his official jet preparing for takeoff from Brisbane Airport.
And that was a closed media conference. There was only Russian journalists there, so we expect that he would have had to tread a very fine line between speaking to a domestic audience back in Russia and also being polite as being a guest here in Brisbane.
Well, that's right, and there's only so much you can take the diplomatic strong words at an event where, and let's not forget, every minute is sacred. The world leaders have been on the ground here in official mode for really only a day and a half. Of course, there have been the lunches and the receptions where matters of state are certainly discussed, but in terms of the official business, moments like these are fairly scarce. Now, as we prepare to see Vladimir Putin's official jet take off, I'm joined by Valdis Dombrovskis. He is a Vice President of the European Commission, the Commission, of course, being one of the bodies represented at the G20. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. But can I firstly ask you, we'll speak about the economics and finance, but you're also a former Prime Minister of Latvia. Do you think much stronger international action words should have been taken against Vladimir Putin here in Brisbane over the activities in eastern Ukraine?
Well, I would say that Ukraine was not part of the G20 summit agenda, but the messages world leaders were sending to Putin during this summit, formally or less formally, were quite clear that the Russia's behavior, actually destabilizing situation in Ukraine, is unacceptable, and that this must